Hey guys, David Pingree with Vital MX, out here at Paris Raceway today, getting to ride the 2021 KTM 250 SXF. It's our first ride on this thing, and there's not a ton of changes to it, but a lot of little tweaks and tunes. Basically the stuff that the factory edition bike got last year is getting dropped down to the 250 this year. So it's always fun to go back, ride these things with those little adjustments and see the differences that it made from the 2020 model. Obviously it's got new graphics, a new look. Those are all built into the plastics, they don't rub off. Great looking bike, but the big changes came in the suspension department. Reworked front fork, it's got an extended oil and air bypass in it, which reduces pressure peaks, and a new mid-valve damping system. Basically just for better feedback and rider comfort. Slightly firmer suspension settings front and rear. So going for a little bit better bottoming resistance. At times folks said it was a little soft, so they kind of addressed that. So it's a little more racy, lets you be a little bit more aggressive with it. It's got the low friction seals that got put into the factory edition bikes last year. That's for the linkage bearings, so that it just reduces friction in that movement. It's got MX33 tires this year, which is always an upgrade. That's the tire to be on right now. It's got a new upper con rod bearing with bushing. It's made of, or coated with copper beryllium instead of DLC coated piston pin. And that's just for improved reliability for them. It's got a reworked rocker arm shape for structural optimization. Basically, it reduces weight and inertia, improves stiffness. Reworked shift locker, which is for improved reliability, and it's got a toolless fork rebound adjuster. So just like your compression adjuster on the top, you can now reach down and just adjust your rebound by hand as well. Super convenient. I don't know why more brands aren't going to that. It's so nice to be able to, from track to track, if there's big downhills, big steep bumps, or if it's really hard pack and slick, to be able to just make a 1 or 2 clicker adjustment, which is subtle, but if you have a setting you like, man, it's nice to be able to make small adjustments track to track, and pretty much everybody does that. So anyway, those are the changes. On the track, you know, it's been a little bit since I've ridden the KTM 250 SXF, going back to this time last year probably, and I noticed right away it's comfortable. The rider triangle on older KTMs, if you go back a ways, man, it was tough to get used to them. Now you jump on and they feel comfortable. It feels, you know, like a bike you don't take a lot of time to get used to. Good power, I would say all the way through, you know, like roll on is good. And the KTMs are known for really over revving, making a lot of power up top. Still does that, but I don't feel like there's any kind of hiccups or lags. I did go through the 2 maps and like the aggressive map better. Just gives you a little bit more excitement and a little bit more of it's not a hit, but just a little more power early on, where the map 1 is more linear, a little smoother as it rolls on. 2 is a little bit more aggressive. So they did a good job coming up with maybe like a beginner / vet rider map, and then something that's intermediate expert level. Then you also have traction control on and off, and for me this is hard to feel when there is good traction. Today here at Paris it's very tacky dirt. Maybe a spot here or there where there's not water and it does spin up. And what it just does is detects a RPM spike, a quick spike, and it'll just retard the timing or fuel mapping for just a second to keep that spin from really getting out of control. And I'm a big fan of these. To me, it's damn near like cheating. It makes you a better rider, because times where it would really spin up and maybe step out on you, it fixes it for you, and you don't even have to think about it. So to me, it's a no-brainer. Leave it on. It doesn't hurt. Like today, we had 95% of the track was great traction, but there was a couple of shiny slick spots, and it would just keep it in line. You know, if it started to light up and step out, it would just straighten it out for me. So I enjoyed it. I liked that a lot. And the great thing about this, you know, some of these new map settings, traction control settings, you've got to be in neutral to make those changes. And if you're riding and you want to change it on the fly, I mean, it sucks to have to stop to do that. With KTM, you don't have to. You can do it as you're riding. You just reach down, a quick tap of the button, and it's jumping from one to the other. The lighting on there is such that you can see when you've made a change. They did a great job developing that and producing it. How does the new suspension feel? It feels good. I would say that it's subtle changes, right? I mean, am I going to notice a better bearing in the linkage? Man, maybe if I went back to back with a brand new 2020. But I will tell you that it's unusual for me to get on a bike and not have to make really any changes. I didn't touch anything today. All we did was address air pressure. I think 10.5 or 10.7 is standard for bar. They set it at 10.3, knowing it might bump up a little bit because it's pretty warm today. And I had bumped all the way up to 10.8. So I did feel when we went out for that initial session, I did feel like it got a little firmer, and it almost felt like there was some too much rebound, like it was kind of popping back up at times. I came in, I said, hey, we may need to like slow the rebound down on the fork a little bit. And he says, all right, let me check the pressure first. And that pressure had jumped up, which will do two things: make it feel firmer, you know, ride a little taller, but it'll also, you know, speed that return up. So just by going back to the right pressure, what we wanted, once the temp was already up, it didn't jump again after that, and we had the feel I was looking for. I didn't even have to make a change to clickers, to rebound, to anything. And so that's unusual for me. I got on that thing in complete stock trim, and at the end of the day here, they were like, anything you want to adjust, you want to try? And I was like, I don't really have any complaints, you know, it's good. So they did a great job coming up with settings and specs. I would say be real careful about that air pressure. You've got to maintain it, because 0.1, 0.2 bar, I mean, you're going to, one way or the other, you're going to notice a difference. So my recommendation is maybe set it 0.1 bar lower than what you like. And that way when you go out, it should work up into your range. And after you're done with your first session, recheck it. Really critical to recheck it. The fork does work well, just make sure you're focused on getting those numbers right. So yeah, the action of the suspension though, great. No bottoming issues. A lot of little fast chop out here. Some high-speed rollers. I'm not bottoming. I mean, it's handling big landings well. So no complaints at all on the suspension side of things. Brakes, as always, top notch. Those haven't changed. Awesome clutch on this thing. I do love the easy adjustment. You know, a lot of the other models, these come with the levers, brake and clutch lever, pretty far out. And I like them kind of closer in so my fingers don't have to reach as far. With this, it's just a toolless adjustment as well. Screw it in or out to make that lever come in or out. And I'm a big fan of the way that works, so definitely like that. I would say one thing that if you have, I'm a size 8 boot, you know what they say about small feet, small boots. I sometimes miss the brake and the shifter. So if this is my bike I'm keeping for the year, I'm gonna go find some aftermarket brake pedal and shift levers that have adjustable pedals for them, and I'm gonna bring them back a touch. If you're a guy who's got a 10 or 11 size foot, you're gonna love this. It gives you a little bit more room. You're not having to work to get under that shifter as much, so it's total personal preference, but for me they're a little far out, and at times, because I do try to ride on the balls of my feet as often as I can, and I'm just making little movements reaching up to catch those pedals, and I'll miss them on this bike. And I find when I go back to the KTMs that happens. No other issues, like I said, as far as ergonomics and chassis, the thing feels very light, corners well. Again, that's another thing. If you find yourself struggling to corner, like the front end you can't get it to lean in, check your air pressure in that fork, because I was noticing as the pressure went up, it didn't want to turn into the ruts. I was kind of scratching my head a little bit when we came in and the pressure had jumped up. We fixed it, I went back out, no more problems. So if that front end gets too high, you're going to be a little bit choppered out, and it's not going to want to turn in. So again, that's why I say that pressure is very important to make sure you got it right on the numbers. And start with what they recommend stock, and adjust from there based on your weight or whatever you prefer. But if it starts jumping up a bunch or it's really low, you're gonna feel it and you're not gonna like it. Anyway, the 2021 KTM 250S XF is in KTM dealer showrooms now. Awesome bike. If you're a KTM rider, you're gonna love this thing. Small tweaks, basically getting everything the factory edition models got, bringing it down to the 250, and just taking an already great bike, making it even better. So thank you to the KTM guys for having us out today. Paris Raceway was a blast. Appreciate it. We'll see you guys on our next intro.